We have a bit of a message from the campus, the university chair of the Aging Studies Project, Dr. Creedon. Dr. Michael Creedon has been chairman of the Aging Studies Project since its foundation in 2003. And he has also served as the founder and coordinator of the Johns Hopkins University Odyssey Program on Aging for 15 years. And as you'll no doubt notice, he is a native of Ireland. And so we'll go ahead and play that for you now. He was unable to be with us today.
My name is Michael Creedon, and I am the chairman of the Aging Studies Project. Our nation has passed the 40 million mark of persons over age 65. Each day for the next 15 years, 10,000 Americans will reach age 65. The challenge of an aging society is upon us. The Board of ADCL established the Aging Studies Project in 2003 as a means of meeting this challenge. Today we are proud to say that over 2,000 elders in Missouri and Arizona have been assisted by ATSU students through home visits or through training in falls prevention. Our new Pathway to Nutrition program at Kirksville and our congestive heart failure patient visiting program in Mesa will strengthen our outreach and give you the opportunity to serve elders in new ways in the year 2013 and 14. We seek to support your understanding and skills for service to older Americans. Our educational modules in aging have been expanded to 11 modules. They deal with the aging process, nutrition and the elderly, elder abuse, and other topics. They are available for use in courses and for individual access. We will also begin offering support to our students in clinical settings around the nation in 2013. Please pick up a flyer on the modules list as you leave the room today. Our Campus Committee on Aging on each campus are led by Dr. Jeff Alexander in Mesa and by Dr. Rick Pleshner in Kirksville. Both are senior professors who have accepted these roles in 2012, and they will bring much strength to our program. We welcome all faculty who want to work with us. We also welcome leaders from the community, some of whom are with us today. We greet representatives from Truman State University, Grand Canyon University, and other community service bodies. I want to particularly thank Professor Elton Bordenave, Director of the Aging Program at Mesa Campus, and Dr. Janet Head, Director at Kirksville Campus. They are the heart of our effort. Thanks also are due to Dr. John Hurd, Vice President of Research and Grants, who has served on our management team from the beginning. Our efforts at ATSU have recently received national recognition. The Centers for Disease Control National Implementation Guide for Falls Prevention includes a specific description of our program. The National Council on the Aging, in a fall 2012 publication, recognized the innovative nature of our falls prevention education program. This year, the Greater Valley AHEC program has given ATSU a $25,000 grant to help build up our community outreach activity, and the Area Agency on Aging Region 1 in Mesa has also given financial support to that activity. Thanks to both organizations for that specific help. I offer a warm welcome to our speaker for today, Dr. Andrea Sherman, the presenter of the 9th Annual University Lecture on Aging. Her topic on the role of the arts in healthcare fits fully with the holistic tradition of osteopathic medicine. Finally, I want to especially welcome the students of ATSU and thank you for being with us today. You can be the key to healthier, happier, fuller lives for many of the elders of America. Thank you.
Without further ado, I'll introduce our speaker, Dr. Andrea Sherman, and turn the floor over to her.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for asking me to be your AT Still 9th presenter on aging. And my background is both in arts and in aging. I spent many years as a dancer, a choreographer, and a gerontologist. So I come at it from both sides. I'd like to thank Dr. Phelps, Dr. Creedon, and especially Elton Bourdonnais for all of his organizational skills. And the head of your school, A.T. Still, when I was looking into him, was a real paradigm shifter and a very innovative person himself. So it fits really into this topic. He was a bold thinker. And right now, in the field of gerontology, we're experiencing a paradigm shift. And it's been going on for a while. And some of this is driven by demographics, the increasing number of older adults, the fact that older adults are living so long, the fact that the minority is becoming the majority. And now we refer to, and I'm sure some of you have heard some of these new paradigms, we say, oh, growing older is active, it's productive, it's vital, it's conscious and creative. That's the one that I'm going to speak to you today about. So, and this paradigm is really core to thinking about, not thinking about growing older only in terms of loss and disease, which gerontologists, that's where we were stuck for a long time. Now we think about fulfillment and potential and the vital role of the expressive arts. So today we will look at some of these objectives and really focus in on some of the key words: potential, mastery, engagement, social engagement, including a conscious engagement between older persons and their care providers, and the really vital role of the arts and humanities in this, and creativity as the critical link in person-centered care. And what I hope to do is, as I go along, I'll be sharing video clips of some of the evidence-based research that's here. So it'll be fun for you to really see, what does it look like? What does it really look like right now, this creativity and aging? So creativity. The definition that I like to use a lot comes from Rollo May. He developed it in the early 70s when he wrote The Courage to Create. And he said creativity is bringing something new into existence. And then geropsychiatrist Gene Cohn added the idea that creativity is bringing something new into existence that's valued, that sense of valuing what we do. For a long time, people said, how could you possibly measure creativity? And people thought, oh, to our scientists here, creativity declines as you grow old. And that is a stereotype, a negative stereotype that has been really broken and challenged recently, because new research shows us otherwise. Creativity does not decline as we grow older. And when we think about creativity, some of the words that come to mind are aliveness, vitality, curiosity, I love that one, being in the moment, courage, like Rollo May said. Personally, my own metaphor about creativity and aging comes from my grandmother, Rena. And as a young child in Baltimore, Maryland, I would go to visit her in her apartment. And eagerly, the smells that would come from her door as she opened the door and peered out were amazing. And she taught me how to cook. And this was her recipe. A little bit of this and a little bit of that. There was no recipe. And for me, when I think about creating, I think about cooking, and I think of moving the pots on the stove and smelling and tasting. And I know if we had time, we could explore, what are our metaphors about creating? What are they? Because I'm sure they're different for all of us. The National Center for Creative Aging in Washington, D.C., which is it's a great resource, and I'm sorry I didn't send it along, but it's a warehouse of research, best practices, and policy in arts and aging. And we've been doing work there, training healthcare professionals and students in this field of geriatric education using the arts and humanities. But it all lives under the umbrella of person-centered care. That's where we're housed, bringing together a focus on mind, body, and spirit. through creativity. And moving from problem to potential. So, and central to all of this, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with recent thinking about the brain and aging, and there's a lot that's coming down the pike about the brain. It's not old age specifically that reduces the brain's functioning. In fact, the human brain maintains its capacity to form and deepen connections between neurons. Challenging the brain is the very best way to form new neural connections. And it's stagnation that threatens potential brain development. And what do the arts offer? Quality, creative engagement. It's the antithesis of stagnation. All of this exists in a new historical context right now. And we're in a sea change. We're in a demographic revolution. We know that by the year 2030, over 70 million people will be over 65, and that the 85 and older group is doubling. It's the fastest growing cohort. And along with that, we have increasing numbers of centenarians, people that live well into their hundreds. I'm sure many of you have them in your practice. There's no and the challenges and the losses that come with aging. But new research points not only to the problems, but also the potential. So we're going to look at some of these studies. And I've organized them under 4 topics here. And the first topic is optimizing health outcomes. And this is probably, out of all the studies that are included, it's by Dr. Gene Cohen, and it's the most rigorous study that there is in a lot of them. And he looked at the impact of professional cultural arts programs, and he used music, theater, and visual arts. They were the 3 art forms. Each program was conducted by a professional artist. These were not conducted by amateurs. And I think that's an important concept here. And it was funded by the National Endowment for the Arts. And there were 166 older adults. This study is now being replicated at the University of San Francisco, which is really good news. The 2 key concepts, and we're seeing other researchers take these concepts of mastery and social engagement. Those were probably his 2 most significant findings in this study. That learning something new gave older adults a sense of mastery and control, and that social engagement in these arts programs helped build vital community. So this sense of skill building and community are really key. And since that time, more than 600 people have participated in the program. So I'd like to take a look at the Corral Program led by Gene Kelly in Washington, D.C., and this was one of the groups that participated.
Encore Creativity for Older Adults is the collective name of 11 choral groups in the Washington area. Members don't have to audition to join, and no experience is required.
Everybody move down, move down.
Gene Kelly founded and directs the program.
Our singers, some of them have sung their entire life. Some haven't sung for 40 years because they've been busy with a career, they've been busy raising families, and then some have never sung.
Kelly also heads a summer program at St. Mary's College in Maryland. This summer, more than 60 singers accepted the challenge to learn 5 compositions in just 4 days. Jean Heather has attended the Summer Institute since it began 5 years ago.
They teach us here not only about the music, but how to sing and how to sing better. And they don't really get mad if you miss a note or if you come in the wrong place.
Never hear thy winning voice.
A lot of time is spent rehearsing for the final concert.
Up, middle, low.
But there are other activities as well. Margot Newhouse joined Encore a year ago after rehabilitation from a fall. She says the summer program has been therapeutic.
Definitely, I was very tired each day at the end of the day, and it was a healthy tiredness, which I'm sure has helped me in my activity level.
Kelly says the 2001 research that launched Encore proved it would be beneficial.
What we found after the first year was that singers who had the chance to study under professional artists had much higher morale, suffered much less depression, they took fewer medications, they had fewer falls.
Back then, there were only 150 singers. Today, there are more than 550.
3, 2, 1.
The average age is 73, but some are in their 90s. Gene Kelly says, "You're never too old to sing." Susan Loeb, VOA News, St. Mary's, Maryland.
That video clip just really demonstrated this idea of when you challenge your mind, whether it's singing or whatever art form, it enhances your brain reserve. It increases a sense of mastery and control, which promotes your overall health. Gene Kelly summarized some of the results, but the participants in the group that were in the control group, which declined, but those who participated in the arts group used less medication, they had fewer doctor's visits, and they scored better on depression, loneliness, and morale scale. Now, Dr. Cohen was one of the first NIA heads, so he did a cost-benefit analysis of this, and he looked at how many Medicare D eligible persons there are, and when he extrapolated the data, he said that in the intervention group, doctor visit savings are estimated to be around $6.3 billion a year. And in fact, programs like this help keep people in their homes and lessen the need for long-term care. Another study under this by Houston et al., and you'll see that I've tried to put together different art forms, so you get the feeling that it's not just one art form that research is happening in right now, many different ones. In this one, storytelling was used with people that had high blood pressure, and they were from the African American community. 230 people received DVDs, and these were hypertension stories from people that had high blood pressure. And they were given to older persons and to persons in the community. And they found that the blood pressure control improved and that storytelling is really an effective intervention for giving health information. So here's a clip of one of the videos that was used. moving and effective. And I think that could be used for other chronic diseases and with other vulnerable populations. It's a really culturally appropriate intervention. The next category is creativity, cognition, and aging. And what better art form to use than theater? So this is probably the second most rigorous study, the No-See and No-See study, because it's a husband and wife team of an actor, and his wife is a neuroscientist. So they've combined together, and they looked at the use of theater and cognitive functioning, and specifically at word recall, listening tasks, and self-esteem. And of course, no surprise, the theater groups scored better than the other groups on 4 out of 5 of the interventions. And they also had improved psychological well-being. Now, this next study is one of my favorite ones. It's a dance one, and it's by Hackney and her group, and it's a tango study of people who had Parkinson's disease. And for all of you PT people here, one of the interesting things that they found is that when someone partners with someone else, mobility really changes. And having that frame to partner with made a really significant difference. So findings revealed that those that participated in this tango study improved on measures of balance, falls, and gait. I know you have a big falls prevention program here, so maybe you will add the tango to it. But it's really an effective modality. My own doctoral research was with dance and older deaf persons and younger deaf children, and I brought them together in a dance intervention. And one thing that astounded me was that the young children had never met older deaf people. They thought that you just died at some point. So for them, it was really, I think it was life-changing.
We'd been interested in the walking and balance problems that people with Parkinson's disease experience for several years and had been studying it in the lab. And then I had a graduate student, Madeline Hackney, come to work with me who had experience as a professional dancer. So we had the right combination of skills and patient population to implement this after seeing an abstract at a Society for Neuroscience meeting where they had compared tango to walking for exercise in a group of older people without Parkinson's disease who were at risk for falls. And that poster showed that the tango was superior to walking, so we decided to try it here with people who have Parkinson's disease. What we did was compare traditional exercise classes like those that are currently offered in the community for people with Parkinson's disease to learning to dance tango. So we had a group of people that we recruited and we assigned them to either learn tango or to do a traditional exercise class. We evaluated their walking and balance before they started the classes. Then they completed 20 classes. And at the end of the classes, we reevaluated their walking and balance. And then we could compare any changes that we saw between the two groups to determine which group, if either, resulted in improvements. And we found that the tango group improved far more than the traditional exercise group, particularly with respect to balance. We have several questions that we would like to answer now. One is there something particular about the tango that's important, or would dance in general be beneficial? Another is whether we need people to really dance over a long time period. The 20 lessons that they did in the initial study were completed over a course of 10 weeks. What we're doing right now is what we call dance boot camp, where we're having people dance every day for 2 weeks to see if we can get equivalent effects with a short duration intervention.
And I think the drive home message here is that theater is really multimodal. It uses the physical, the cognitive, and the psychosocial. The next area is Alzheimer's disease and dementia. And probably the most well-known program is the Time Slips program. If you haven't seen it, it's a wonderful program for people with dementia. In this study, and I think part of the content of that program is that it replaces the pressure to remember with the ability just to imagine. So people don't have to remember. You can imagine, and that is as significant as remembering. And in this study, it uses, and I'll show you a clip of it, it uses an image to stimulate a conversation. And the images are chosen very carefully. People that participated in the program were more alert And there was more frequent staff and resident interactions. And interestingly, the staff became more positive about their attitudes towards people with dementia. And I know we see this often. I was working in a hospice at one point, and there was an older, fairly elderly woman with dementia there. And the staff, to me, had kind of written her off. But I noticed she had a lot of religious objects in her room, and I brought one of her statues to her bedside. And she started polishing it. She took the bottom of her nightgown, and she just started polishing the statue. And through this power of observation, I realized that she probably cleaned and polished a lot in her lifetime. So I went to the nursing manager and I said, what can we do for her to let her polish and clean and order? So we took the silverware trays and we brought them to her bedside, and she polished all of the silverware that was in the tray, and then she organized them all. And eventually the nursing assistants and other staff started working with her more, realizing that she could still imagine. She might not, and in fact, she even remembered how to polish that silverware. There was another second time slip study in 2010. Again, the groups were tested at baseline, post-intervention, and 7 and 10 weeks. And the time slips group showed more pleasure. We haven't talked about pleasure through the arts. And also more communication, and that on the bottom there is one of the images that you'll see that was used. So here's a clip from Time Slips. Are you happy?
Am I happy? No, I told you I was mad today.
I thought I was mad today.
No, I'm mad today.
You're not mad today.
When people get Alzheimer's, they slip off into this place where people think they have nothing left to give. There's such a tremendous fear of the disease that it's worse than death in this country. So slowly what happens to these people, networks tend to slip away and they end up fairly isolated. I created time slips in order to help people with Alzheimer's improve their quality of life. For time slips, staff or volunteers gather storytellers into a circle once a week for an hour or so, most commonly working with people in the middle to late stages of dementia. We go around and greet all the participants. Hello, it's great to see you again. Are you excited for the storytelling? We're here to do the storytelling. Then we show them a picture for the new week.
So here's the new picture.
The best images are the kind that look like they have a story to tell behind them, that are staged in some way. Using family photographs or celebrity photographs doesn't work because it's too real. They can't quite launch into creativity from them. One person sits in the middle of the group with a big sketch pad and some markers and writes down everything that they say. It helps to have a couple of people sitting around the circle at different points so that they can hear what the storytellers are answering, because some of them speak very softly, and they can echo the words to the writer so that she can write them down, make sure she gets them all.
She said you can look out the window and you can see the trees that are downtown.
She's a little old lady that's really strong because she drives an airplane.
We try to ask questions that open the storytellers up to creativity.
How does her family feel about her flying? What do they think about her flying?
They're worried sick.
They're worried sick, she better stop.
Yes.
Why does she continue to do it?
Maybe they don't give her enough attention.
They don't give her enough attention. The family does not give her enough attention, so maybe that's why she drives the plane.
I think the only time they it.
Words are actually where the disease reveals itself. So they've learned to distrust their own speech. It's dispensed with very easily by just a little bit of comforting and encouragement.
So it's a longer clip, and if you go to the website, you can see it, but I just wanted to give you a taste of it. And there's a whole training manual that's attached to that program. But another study in here is the Meet Me at MoMA program in New York, and this is being replicated around the country now. This is an art program, and I like this one because it's older people who have Alzheimer's disease or cognitive impairments and their caregivers. They come together in an arts program that lasts about an hour and a half, and it's a choreographed program where they move from very deliberate art pieces that are chosen and findings reveal, and then again, it's led by a professional arts educator, that there were significant mood changes in those with dementia and their caregivers. And this sense of engagement and respect was really key in this study.
This program is a gift, an unexpected gift.
And then the people who take us around open up, visions that we didn't see before, things that we didn't know about before. So it's just incredible.
And there's like, in a way, coming home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we've been here many times.
Very well, have seen many times over the last months and years. And some of you are new to this program, so I just want to welcome you. But before I tell you anything about it, I'd like to go around and just tell me one word that comes to your mind when you look at this. Now, what's one word that comes to your mind when you look at this? Metallic. Very good. Okay, I'm going to remember metallic. Florence, what's a word that comes to your mind?
Huge shapes.
Huge. Right?
Like that.
Any words? Marilyn, what's one word that comes to your mind when you look at this?
Very stylized.
Stylized.
Circles and squares and diagonals and diamonds.
One of the biggest joys, I guess, of leading a program like this is that you get to watch this interaction between couples. And because it's a program for people with dementia, that they're going through some really difficult times. Yet while they're in the program, you just watch them. They're touching each other affectionately, they're laughing, they're telling jokes that sometimes they'll share with you and sometimes they want to keep them to themselves.
You got 5 teeth on one side and 4 teeth on the other, so you got different. I'm counting the teeth.
And you can see that you're treating them like valid, important adults. You're treating them with the respect that adults deserve. And sometimes you can't even tell who's the person with dementia and who's the caregiver. And that's really amazing, because what it means is that everyone is interacting on the same level, and it's a level that's very high. It's an adult level, and with a little humor and a lot of openness, you just get around the obstacles that Alzheimer's presents.
See if I can describe this, but George today wasn't in such a good mood when we got here, and it was very crowded, and he just kind of didn't want to go and was a little upset. And then the minute he started looking at the art and Carrie pointed things out, he just got so involved in it and started looking for things himself, and I was just thinking how it brought something out for him. It brought something from inside out.
That one is also longer and also available on the Meet Me at MoMA website. So the fourth category of research, and all of this is in a white paper that was published in 2011, and since then there's been another summit about arts and creativity, and there's a new stream of papers, I think, that will be coming out again. So the field is very vibrant right now. This category is under the value of art for building community and strong social networks. And the study is called Vital Visionaries, and it was with medical students and older people. And 112 medical students were in the treatment group and 96 in the comparison. And they participated in looking at art together. And this is a photo of the students with the older people. And I think that, all of us have stereotypes about growing older. We live in an ageist society. I remember when I was studying and I came across Betty Friedan's work on the Fountain of Age and how radical that was, to think about that instead of the Fountain of Youth. So I think it's important to be aware of what our stereotypes are about older people, to take the time to explore that, and for all of us to recognize what our stereotypes are. In some of my talks, I ask people to think about what they are, and we write long, voluminous lists of what all old people are, and try and deconstruct it some. So this intergenerational group met for 4 two-hour sessions, and post and free surveys were administered. And this changed attitude. Through this interaction, the Vital Visionary students became more positive towards older people, and a sense of community was fostered. Joan Jeffrey at Columbia University has been doing a lot of work. She's published 2 studies. One was called Above Ground with Visual Arts. And she's recently studied performing arts in New York. And she looked at how visual artists can be a social model for aging. What is it about them that we can discover about growing older? Her first study had 213 visual artists aged 62 to 97, and they were functioning creative artists. And she learned that these older artists had ingenuity and vitality, and that they had a strong sense of both mastery and engagement. And if you think about it, what are the processes that are involved when you make art? There's problem solving, decision making, the senses, there's how you feel. So these artists are role models. She has since developed a program called the Art Cart. And she is, it's an intergenerational arts legacy project, and it connects older professional artists in New York with teams of graduate students. And they are undertaking to prepare and document the work. So this is a sample of Art Cart. I'm going to stop that. A program that I've been involved in is Transitional Keys that was inspired by Barbara Meyerhoff. And this is using ritual to help ease transitions in the second half of life. And this is a welcome ceremony that was created for 35 new residents that entered an assisted living home. We've also been working with healthcare professionals to look at rituals of self-care that they can begin to practice in their healthcare life and in their personal life as well. And I just wanted to mention a little bit about story, because we've been talking about narrative healthcare, narrative care, and take 2 short stories and call me in the morning. And to realize that finding the story of the people that you care for is really critical. It's really important, taking the time to do that. And there are many benefits of finding the story. I like this quote. This comes through the palliative care literature. The goal is to enter into a relationship to hear and honor the story the patient tells as many times as the patient needs to tell it. There is nothing that needs to be fixed. So looking to the future in terms of new paradigms in aging, Castor Brinkley did a review of the literature in 2009. They surveyed more than 2,000 articles, and only 11 of them were eligible for inclusion. And that's the Cone and the Gnosis and those other studies that I've showed you. We need to replicate the really strong ones, the rigorous ones, and look at how the arts improve health, cognition, and mood. To do a cost-benefit analysis, I think, would help the field greatly. To look at engagement, which interventions are most effective for which populations, not to forget the intergenerational piece. What can you do for your own aging? There are 5 kind of prescriptions that come from Gene Cohen in The Mature Mind. Exercise mentally, physically, pick challenging leisure activities, achieve mastery, and achieve strong social networks. It's the use it or lose it.
I dance because I can't not dance. And once I started, there's just no way to stop. It means too much to me.
Shula is 66 and has strength and grace that somebody half her age would envy. She credits dance.
I know a lot of things that people are now trying to prove, but I think in our experience as a dance company, we've known them for a long time. This company has been doing work with seniors for over 35 years, and every week we get a letter or a phone call or an email saying that workshop that I did with you 10 years ago, 20 years ago, absolutely changed my life.
But older people aren't just benefiting from the physical effects. Thomas Dwyer is 78.
Mentally, it keeps me alert, because the timing in dance is critical, and you can't mess up. So that concentration and alertness, I believe, comes with applying yourself to this type of activity.
Slowly step right, cross, right, together.
By 2030, 1 billion people will be over the age of 65. For the first time in history, seniors will outnumber young children. How to age well is becoming an urgent concern for policymakers.
Just 20 years ago, the field of physical activity and aging was in its infancy, and now everyone recognizes the potential impact on chronic conditions, prevention, primary prevention, cognitive status, on and on. Well, it turns out that the arts could have a beneficial impact too. Hopefully it won't take 20 years for us to get to that level.
Here we are at Iona Senior Services, and we're looking at artist-in-residence Florence Gang's work. She's 93 years young, and she has...
At this Washington Wellness Center for Seniors, the arts play a central role. They help older people engage socially, reducing the risk of depression and feelings of isolation. And there are studies showing medical benefits too. Research has already shown that engaging in the arts improves our mental and our physical well-being as we age. But we still don't know why, and that's an important question, because although we can now expect to live longer, we're not necessarily staying healthy.
They got that one out.
Diseases associated with age are soaring, and so are the costs. But those costs could be reduced if the therapeutic effects of the arts were found to delay the symptoms of diseases such as Alzheimer's. The number of Americans afflicted by Alzheimer's could double by mid-century, and the cost of looking after them is expected to top $1 trillion.
We really understand that improving people's health and well-being isn't just something that happens in the clinic or in the doctor's office, but also through intervening in various ways into people's everyday lives. And so participating in arts programs is one way of intervening, and we're really interested in finding out, what are the relationships between arts and aging through our research initiatives.
As science builds its case for the arts, Schuler and Thomas continue to dance. They do it for the love of art, but history may come to regard them as early pioneers in medicine.
So I'd like to offer a toast to all of you as we move into this paradigm shift and think about the vital role of creativity and the arts and the humanities. And I think it's summed up really well by my dear friend Jean Cohen, who said, "It's only when problems and potential are considered together that health is best promoted and illness best cared for." This is the ultimate art and creativity of medicine and healthcare, bringing hope and clarity to situations that might otherwise be challenged by despair and confusion. So thank you all very much. And I also, I think we have time for questions, and I wanted to thank Ryan for all of his help on the tech today. So, thank you all.
Just very quickly, I didn't know if Dr. Phelps would like to say a word or two.
Yes, I sure would. Dr. Sherman, thank you. That was wonderful. Each year these lectures get better and better, and that was inspiring to see what can be done through what we might consider alternative types of medical care. And this university prides itself in looking at new ways of doing things. And I want to make sure we thank Michael Creedon, Elton Bourdonnais, and Janet Head for putting this together and allowing this to happen today on both campuses. So I'm going to leave here, go to the recorded presentation on the campus in Missouri. And can't thank you enough, Dr. Sherman, and also for our IT folks who put this together. I do have a question for you, is how can we as healthcare providers move these types of therapies to a level where they are financially sustainable for providers that may be in smaller practices and in rural areas or in urban areas that may not have the benefit of researchers and some of the resources shown in the videos today?
That's a good question. And I think we're seeing that, you have to start small. Elton and I have been talking a lot about what to bubble up here in your area. And I think you need to turn around to the assets first that are in your community. Making alliances with the Mesa Arts Council. I think it's the Mesa Arts Council here. But building from the ground up, I think, is a good way to start. Also looking to see what resources exist within your university. Is there some faculty member, for instance, that has a medical humanities background that might be able to work in the piece of narrative and healthcare? And then bringing together teams. I really believe in the team approach in terms of trying to solve all this. The rural piece, I'm involved in a rural training program in the VA in New York. And I think we're just starting really small there. So, and then I think you have to look at, clearly the NIA is supporting research in this area. We got that message on the last video clip. So there is funding. There is a funding stream where there wasn't a funding stream in the past. So I think that is the good news.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Sherman? Well, if not, thank you all again for coming, and thank you, Dr. Sherman.